live from Trinidad and Tobago.
Welcome to Connections 50 Plus Wednesdays live show.
I am Terri-Ann Joseph Brathwaite.
And I am Jennifer Gibbons Joseph. Hi everyone. Good evening and welcome to Connections 50 Plus Wednesday Alive. And this hi is to everyone in the Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean. So I am Jennifer Gibbons Joseph, and with me as usual is my colleague.
Hi, I am Terri-Ann Joseph Brathwaite. Welcome. Jennifer, I have to make a big correction. Last week, I was happily introducing and showing off how I know the and yes, we know there's another gentleman down there. Wait, you will get accustomed. You will keep taking me in God, well-groomed gentleman. But I was busy showing off my knowledge of the Caribbean, starting from Belize and going to Antigua. And twice, Jennifer, I said, Barbados, the most westerly of the Caribbean islands. Well, I got a private note from a friend who asked me what kind of geography I do if I don't know my coordinates, and they make me go to a map. Barbados, I am sorry, you are the most easterly of the Caribbean.
And I did not correct you on that because I didn't pay attention. So yes, I need to apologize also.
So for the Barbadians, the most easterly, I put you as the most westerly. So, but it shows that we have audiences, people are paying attention to us.
Yes.
And it's great to be here. It's great to be here as usual on a Wednesday. And oh, Jennifer.
A lot has been happening. Since then to now, Terri-Ann, still in the air is the fear and the anxiety with the fall off, with the pandemic. There are companies that has announced that by year end they're going to be retrenching. So I know many people, especially our 50 plus, many of them would be retrenched by the end of the year. So that's a great concern. Then you had the announcement, I think it was yesterday, very recently, about the, no more in terms of the reduction, in terms of the scholarship for those who have been looking forward for scholarships, that has been reduced, and the shift and changes around with the gate. So what that says is that, yes, this is a new normal, it is a new time, and we all have to look at what we are doing, what things are to put in place. So we have to now carry the burden. We can't depend on the government. We can't depend even on, we have no employers to depend on, many of us. So that, I think, always Christmas time, and Christmas we be happy and shopping and looking forward to doing all these things. I think the reality now is, hey, something? By the end of the year, many of us will be in a different financial situation.
Jennifer, and this is where our followers will have to really tune out and say, Terri-Ann, you're getting overboard now. Because I am not going to fall into saying, I think COVID has tipped. Many companies, governments, a lot of people are probably using COVID as their, all right, this is the reason that I'm doing a lot of stuff. But when we pay attention to the adjustments that are being made and so on, people have known governments have known, businesses have known, individuals have known that they've had to make adjustments to things for a while, for years, decades. And they've known that they've been carrying inefficiencies. Our guest is an educator. And we know that we should have been prepared for this online learning. We know we have numeracy and literacy issues. We know we've had businesses that have carried inefficiencies for a long time. And individuals have delayed making changes because, well, I suppose why bother to go through the stress if my employer carried me and the government carried me, and I have gates that I could do over and over and over, and there's a less than tight governance structure around a lot of stuff. So while COVID has brought, I suppose it's a lesson. It has brought us to a stage where, excuse me, stop now, please. Yeah, you have to, it's hitting a lot of us in the face, and I include myself in that. I don't exclude myself. It's hitting us smack in the face. And people are using the year end to make sure that when they start 2021, they're not carrying stuff. And unfortunately, it's a young culture. It's a fresh culture. It's not young. It is that the prime is the 20 to 50. That's the prime. So if you have to rebuild and reset, you're going to focus there. And unfortunately, a lot of us fall off the stage. I mean, last night we were looking at the fashion, Port of Spain Fashion Week on television. And I mean, we were talking and looking and saying, wow, I mean, where are we reflected in that? So it's, I suppose that's a good note to introduce our guest.
Yes, because for us to move forward, in 2021 with a clear mind and with the health and strength to do things differently, we have to be in good health, right? So I will want to introduce, and this is not, I mean, I'm introducing you, and I said health, I'm introducing you to Dr. Theodore Lewis, and it's not because he's a physician. So his field is education. He's a retired professor. And Dr. Lewis, this evening, our topic is really on the wellness mindset. You know, for the last two shows, Terri-Ann, we had the financial mindset.
And then we had the entrepreneurial mindset.
And the entrepreneurial mindset. So this evening, we are going to speak about the wellness mindset. And you may ask, why is a professor of education as their guest to speak about a wellness mindset? So what we'll do is let Dr. Lewis tell you why he's here. So Terri-Ann, we'll start with the question. So
Dr. Lewis, first comment on our view of the year end and what is happening.
Yes. So you want to comment, Dr. Lewis, on just like what we just
going on
chatted about recently, just now?
Yeah, well, I suppose when you get to a certain point in life, and in my case, that point is beyond 70, you have to not allow your body and mind go to waste. You cannot resign yourself to your ultimate fate. You have to do what you can to keep your mind, particularly your mind, in gear, and the mind has been for me my most potent tool, I think. So it's the mind first, and then the body has to be in tune with the mind. If your body is not in tune, then you can't think properly, or you don't have, you start dropping interests where you used to have interests, and so on. So I have been, since returning to the country, since 2008, I began bothering about my weight. I was too big. And so I have in the past 3 years spent a fair amount of time on that. I think I took off about 50 pounds.
Congratulations.
By going to the gym and things like that. And that is very important. I want to be around as long as I can. I want to see my granddaughter, who is now 7. I'd like to see her walk across the stage with a degree of some kind. And that will be, she's now 7, so I think that will be about, maybe about 13, 14 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And I'd like to be around to see that. So, so that is an incentive to keep going. Plus, I have my own interest in writing and so on. And if you're ill, you will lose interest in that kind of thing. So that is how I see it.
Dr. Lewis, at the time when you knew, okay, that retirement is coming up, coming close. So I am not sure what age you officially retired. I should ask you, what age you officially retired at?
Well, I don't know if you call it retired, but I
What age you left that? What age you left the university as a professor? Let me.
Well, I was at Minnesota, and I left Minnesota in 08, and I think I was 63.
Okay.
And about 60, and came here. But I didn't come to retire. I came to continue working, and I think I did that part-time at UWI and at UGT. So I really, I suppose back in 2012 is when I think I formally retired. If you call that, yeah.
How did you prepare for that retirement?
Well, you had to be sure that you were secure, so that you're not on the pavement, having retired, having had a work life and so on. So at Minnesota, I took part in the pension scheme. So that was my main means up there. Mm-hmm. And then over time, I bought a house up there and so on. And so by the time I was ready to return, I decided I wanted to come back home. I was, when I was about 62, I decided I think I should come back home.
Okay.
To work here and so on. And so I sold my house, and by that time my house had appreciated in US, so I was able to come down here and reestablish, because I had nothing down here. When I left Trinidad, I had sold my house down here and so on. So I had to, come back down and build a house and all these things and so on. But you had to do things, since the age I was at, you had to had money set aside to do those things and so on. And the pension and so on worked quite well there. The university pension worked quite well there.
Great.
Plus, that, and then of course I contributed to Social Security, so that I would have a pension for life, that was based on the final salary I was making there.
Yeah.
So you have to think about these things, otherwise it gets to be a very difficult country to come back to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So Dr. Lewis, you seem to have had a very solid plan for the financial side of life. And at Connections, we usually see things in 3 planks. We say you always have the analogy of this 3-legged stool, and your financials seem to be well in place. But you'd indicated that there would have been a challenge on one of those planks for us, which is your own well-being.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's true.
Tell us about that journey and that switch, because the discipline that you would have applied to the being financially prepared for retirement, how did you approach your own physical self, your own physical well-being?
Well, the job of being a university lecturer is a sedentary job.
Yeah.
And so although at Minnesota, although you teach one course a week there, and in these major research universities, they don't drown you in teaching.
Mm-hmm.
You have teaching research, you have PhD students and so on. But I showed up at my desk every morning at 8, although we really didn't get teaching till in the evening because we were catering to an evening audience. But you have to be on campus, you have colleagues, you have to interact with students and so on. And I put on weight over the time. I went there. I went to Minnesota in 1990, and and I remained there for 18 years. But I think I put on weight over time. I mean, I used to play football. I mean, in my youth, I played sports and so on. And I was, in fact, I was a runner at Mausica and so. But when I got there, I became more sedentary, as I said.
Yeah.
At the time I really got big. I got to be about 250, 255 pounds. When
How much weight did you put on? So you went in 1990. What did you weigh?
Well, I am certain that in 1990 I might have been weighing maybe 180 pounds, 190 pounds.
Okay.
I can't remember, but
it wasn't big.
Because, well, it wasn't that bad because when I got up there, I was in my 40s, and I remember playing football still and so on.
Yeah.
But I think over time it became more sedentary. I mean, that's the job, I mean, you teach, and then you most of the day you're in your office, people are coming by and that sort of thing. And you're still eating curry chicken and rice and all these things. Still eating all that local stuff and not bothering about these things.
Yeah.
And then you put weight on. So that is something. So I have to spend a fair amount of time having returned. Spend a fair amount of time on that. So I am I'm at about 205 now, and that feels okay, and I have to try to keep it on. So I've been working out, and for the past 2 years, at least once a week, I go down to the Savannah in Port of Spain and get around.
Yeah.
In addition to going to Empower 4 times a week and spending an hour there and so on.
Okay.
I've been doing that for the last 3 years now. So, so 4 times.
If I could just ask one question, because you're hitting on something that I'm sure so many of us could identify with, which we call it all kinds of things, age creep, all kinds of things, and we blame hormones and. But do you have any other, apart from the obesity, because that's what it will be called, do you have any other health challenge as a result of that sedentary life?
Well, although I had prostate cancer back in 2002, and I had to have surgery then. I had spent, in fact, I was on a sabbatical in Washington, D.C. at the National Science Foundation. And in those 2 years I was in Washington, D.C., I didn't do my normal annual physical. Okay. Because I was away from my doctor and so on. And I wasn't ill or anything like that. And I was having a good time there.
With the curry chicken again?
So I didn't bother. When in 02, when I came back and I did just a general routine physical, and he told me I should check prostate because black men who are over 50 and so on should do that. And I found out that I did have cancer. And so, you know, my daughter and so we kind of read up on things and so on. So they are, so I had surgery. So that was.
I was taken care of. So
that was 02.
Yes.
18 years ago. So yeah, and so you know you could miss those things because I used to have annual checkups and so on. But when I changed from Minneapolis and you know and went out there, I removed that from my routine, the annual checkup and so on. And when I got back, when I left Washington, I went back to Minneapolis and linked back up with my doctor. He said, well, you know, you should go ahead and do that. And he said, you know, you better check for prostate and so on. I mean, there wasn't any indication and so on. He said you should check routine and so on. And that's how that was.
Yeah.
But black men over 50 and so on have that. I mean, I've had 3 or 4 friends, colleagues who have had that. So that is something that black men in around 50 and so on should check on.
Definitely. Dr. Lewis, during that time, you mentioned, yes, that you would go for annual checkup. But did you look at all as including in your routine? Yes, you're on your campus, including in your routine some sort of exercise, well, an exercise routine.
Well, I did.
Your schedule.
I did. There's a lake not far from where I lived, and I used to do a 75-minute walk.
Okay.
I used to go around the lake three times. 40. Well, let's see. Yeah, 75 minutes walk.
So the extra weight was the food.
Well, yeah. The thing about it is, and looking back on that, if I had paid enough attention to things I shouldn't eat, like the rice and all these things and so on, those things and they accumulate. But and flour and all these things, and then all these juices and so on. You know, you find that well, those are things that beer and those things I have.
Now get into the story, the beer.
well, beer. I drank beer like water.
Yeah.
And I drink, and for the last 3 years now, I drink maybe 1 beer every 5 months.
Yeah.
As against how many beers per day?
Well, I don't know. Well, when we were building the house here in 08, it used to be hot, and you have to drink.
And nothing like a cold Carib. Nothing like a cold Carib.
But one pint of beer is about 225 calories, 250 calories. So that's a lot of calories if you drink 4. If I go down Marbella and hang out with Stumpy and these boys, you can't just drink 1 or 2. You have to do what they do. But I like I said, I drink a beer about once every 4 months or 5 months now.
Mm-hmm.
And I've stopped flour and so on. I don't do, Marie and they have me 1 slice of bread a day, whole wheat and so on. And no sugar, and no sweet drinks and none of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at that, and then I do that, and walking and exercise, routine exercises 4 times a week.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that really does a lot of good.
Mm-hmm.
How easy or how difficult was it for you to change that habit, your eating habit?
Well, I knew I had to take weight off because I had a fall one time and I had some back trouble and so on. And you can't, if you're carrying around weight with a back problem and so on, you're carrying around the weight. So I had to get that weight off. And so, it wasn't, I mean, it takes discipline and so on, but I mean, I had been an athlete as a youth. So working out and so on, I played football in college. And even when I went to Minnesota in my 40s, I went out and played. So going for long walks and so on. I mean, I used to run at university. I used to run cross country and so on. Each weekend, we used to have a 5-mile race and so on. So I have that built up over the years, playing sports and so. Wasn't so the activity isn't new to my body, but my body has to kind of get into it now.
Remember it.
Like when I go to walk around the savannah, that's a 50 to 60 minute walk, depending on how many times I stop and so on. But it's a good walk. It's never an easy walk, but I could walk around my block here, but it's not as interesting.
Okay.
So I go into town. I love walking around. I love walking the savannah, the mountains, and all this. It makes the walk so much more pleasurable. If I have to walk, or if I walk around my block here, I think each time I pass my house, I might want to go in.
You have to go somewhere else.
I might decide that that's the end of the walk. So I just go around there and park my car by Napa and
then
for QRC and go right around. And I do that once. I have been doing that now for since the Shine walk, which is about 2 years ago. I've done that every weekend since.
Nice. That's a good path.
Huh?
That's a good route. It's a good route.
Yeah. I love it.
So how did you make out with the beers then, having to move from, let's say, average of 4 to
No, I don't drink beer.
That was easy for you?
It was.
Okay.
It was. I mean, it was just something smart to do. And then you know, for what as I told you, I want to be there when my granddaughter graduates.
Yeah.
And and I don't want to be pushed in a wheelchair when I get there.
Yeah. Dr. Lewis, if I can ask, because sometimes I often, you're an educator, so I'm getting into learning now, and the science of learning and how we learn and how we go from habits to change in habits. Because most people they don't change unless something happens. You had prostate cancer, and then you had to deal with being 250 pounds, falling down and having back problems. So,
well, those two things didn't go together.
And they were separate, yeah. So
yeah.
One alarm in 2002, and then later on, you got to the stage of being very, very overweight, falling, and then seeing mobility, risk of mobility disappearing from you. And for the 3 years.
Well, the thing is, independence is very important for all of us. But I can't bear the thought of dependence.
Yeah.
So that is a big driver.
If I can ask you, and the challenge here is, what do you say to persons who you faced losing your independence. You literally faced losing it due to some crisis happening to you. And that would cause most people to, hello, turn around and change. But for people who are in the 50 to 80 or 5.8G cohort,
Yeah, well, that is.
who have not had a prostate cancer episode, who have not gained that amount of weight, or yes, I've gained weight, but I haven't fallen down and hurt my back, or I haven't had the crisis. You know, a big part of our mission is to help people to, what you did, to help people to understand what you did in your earlier days can't be continued. How do we get people to understand and learn without the crisis that things must change?
Well, it's a cognitive thing. I mean, you're going through life and you're young and you're youthful and so on, and then you get to a point, and if you should notice that you're not young anymore. You know, I mean, and that just happens. You know, when you're 40 and so on, you don't really see that.
Yeah.
I remember when I went to Minnesota, I was 43. My daughter had just started university, and I decided I had to be up there. So I went. I got a job up there. So my daughter is going to university. I am there. I'm in my 40s. I want to be there because she's going to have fees that have to be paid and so on. Okay, so that conditioned my thought. You know, you after a while you start getting old. You know, 43. Next thing you know, you're 50, and then the weight starts coming on because you have a sedentary. It's a lovely campus life, you know. Mm. And you're there and so on. You go to DC, you drink beer and so forth, colleagues, and then you find that you're a little bit too big. Okay, so it's all cognitive. If you keep that weight, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
So when I came back to Trinidad, and in a way, what that was one of my goals was that I had to take weight off. I couldn't be at 250, 255. That wasn't going to be good. Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things we realized, Jennifer, is, and that's why in our last few programs, we talk about mindset. Yes. And it is really, we have to realize that moving from the second act, the life that you lived and what you did on the second act stage, it will be to your detriment to continue habits and practices that are no longer relevant. You've got to change. And where the is concerned, whether it's the way you eat, you know, you're not eating for the level of activity, the way you drink, the way you move.
Well, I have become very, very much attuned to these things. I keep close watch on my weight, so so it doesn't fluctuate more than 5 pounds. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm at about 205. I could go to 200, 198, mm-hmm. so on. But it's never going to get back to that region of 255 and so on. Mm-hmm. You know, and if I had that kind of a weight now, I would be pretty much more immobile. Yeah. Because it will be on my spine. I have to carry that weight. Yeah. You know, and I'm still, you know, active. I want to be active. And the COVID, otherwise, I can't travel to the States if I want to see my daughter and all these things. But and I still want, you know, as you know, I write and so forth. So,
Dr. Lewis, I must congratulate you. 2 things you mentioned. One, in terms of the financial aspect, you sought help. You got someone to help you who, you know, to give you some guidance, mm-hmm. and that worked. And now for your health, that you didn't just decide, look, I will just do it on my own. You sought help, and you went to, and for those of us who listening, and Empower Nutrition is from Maria Elias, who of course is on our team for the Essential Toolkit. So yes, so you sought help and you did the things that you were advised to do. So you continue being in the habit of walking and exercising, that helped. So you continued with your exercise and discipline enough to know that you can't continue with the drinking of the beers, the eating anything. And that's very good. And this is something that for our listeners, our 50 plus listeners, that we need to know when we need to go for help. Not all the time you can do it on your own, and you go to the professionals to help.
It's true. I mean, I wasn't immobile because like I said, I walked when I was in the state. There was a period of time I walked. I would go around the lake 3 times, and that was a 75-minute walk, and so on. But sometimes you miss time. Like even when I was in Washington, I would go for long walks and so on. But then you might have a year or 2 there where you involved with some other thing, and the couple of years go by, and when you check, your weight is your weight has kind of run away on you. I think that when I came back to Trinidad in 2008, I might have been about 230 or something. And, building house and all these things. And when I checked, I'm 255. Well, you told me about Maria and so on. And the one good thing about her is the guidance on diet.
Yes.
Because one of the things I came out from there with was I just was, what I thought was regular eating was horrible eating. You have to watch everything. I mean, I haven't, rice, there are things you just eat. Or things around the house, things you drink, and juices and all these things and so on. And I am very, very particular now about those things. I squeeze any juice I drink, I squeeze it. So it's oranges or grapefruit. I must say that I have taken back a love of ice cream here. So we have to see what. But I'm liking ice cream again, so I have to kind of watch that a little bit. But I have a scale there all the time, so each day I am on that scale. I know if I have slept, and it really does take. And then of course I walk and I go there 4 times a week, and then on Saturday on the weekends I must do a Savannah walk. And that walk is a good walk because it is always hard. It is always hard to go around. And that is what you need to do. Because when I'm done with that walk, I know I've done something every week. But that's just how it is.
Yeah. One of the things that I always said, and I think we know what to do. We know because we see the weight coming up. We check the diabetes and we're just in that accustomedness, the habit, and you just like the taste of this pilau and the rice and the roti and the doubles and the bacon shark and our culture. It is our culture, your comfort, as it were. And you go through tell me some of the joys along your journey of transformation, because sometimes I think the discussion about switching to a wellness mindset is all about what you have to give up and the sacrifice. And people would say, well, I'm dead anyway.
Yeah.
You know, what was some of the joys and the high points of your transformation journey that kept you going?
Well, you have, look, this is a cognitive thing, you know. After a while, you have to know that you've been carrying the weight because you were younger, and it is easier to carry weight when you are younger. So the weight doesn't bother you as much when you're 40 and so on,
Yeah.
because you know you're young. As you become older, you find that it's carrying weight is carrying weight. You know, and that's really a difficulty. And so there's discomfort there. And you see people on the street, you know, trying to walk, they're dragging.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that. There's the discomfort of weight, and the knowledge that at some point here, you've got to get that weight off, because that kind of weight converts into diabetes and high blood pressure, and so I don't want those things at all.
Yeah.
And so you know, I always go to a doctor and so on, and we, in fact, I did talk to my doctor about weight and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was thinking about a gym I could go to that I would enjoy. And then well, Maria and the Empower it's just small enough and so on, and I sort of like there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you have to think about it. You have to go read about it and so on, and you see you're obese. You know, what is your height? What is your age? And so on there. What is your category? It says obese. Look there, I could read. You're obese. I remember when I was in Victor Ludorum at Morsica. Mm-hmm. I won the quarter, the half, the mile, and the marathon from Piaco there. I played football. I played football for the college, so I didn't. So in my youth, I was active mm-hmm. as a runner and so on. And I think those things. So I think those things help me now to be able to tolerate the pain of having to walk around the savannah at 73. Mm-hmm. But and I think one reason why I could do it is because I know I've done this
before.
I used to run around the savannah. There was a time when I could do that, and I could go around several times. So now I'm very happy to get around once. It's okay.
You know what I want to mention? I want to come in here and mention. You know, you mentioned weight. And there are many of us who may think that, okay, weight is not a challenge, so I'm healthy. You know? And because of that, may not exercise or watch our eating habits, etc. And you can get that false sense, you know, to sit back thinking that you are healthy. So I want to add here, because weight for me was never a big issue, but always a challenge of staying healthy, because in my case, I am hypertensive, right? And on that end, they tell you, okay, maintain a good level of weight, because if you get overweight, it makes it worse. But hearing you speak about, you know, you have your focus is losing that weight to remain healthy. I just want to mention also, for those who may sit back and think, well, I don't have that weight challenge. I am okay. That, listen, especially at our stage, and I'm 60 plus, that it is so important for us to still do that exercise, that walking all the time if you don't want to go in the gym. Exercise is key, and what you eat.
It has to do with health.
Yeah, and so that
blood pressure and so on.
Yeah,
goes with that.
And
because the discipline. Yeah.
Let's not forget the skinny diabetics.
Of course.
Forget these skinny diabetics and the skinny athletic people who drop down with heart
Well, the
attack.
thing is, over the years, I had a regular visit with my doctor, so to check on and so on. And returning home here, I haven't done it in the last couple of years, but I did an annual checkup. You know, get all the blood things and
That work, yeah.
that. You know, I did that. I used to do that annually here. In Minnesota, I did it, and that's how I found out I had prostate cancer. It wasn't anything that, I mean, there was some sign that something was going on, but I didn't bother about it. But it was a routine. Routine. The doctor said, well, you're at the age now. I will add this onto the set of tests you will do.
Yeah.
This time. Right, and so yeah, the finding out about cholesterol, and all those occasionally is important.
Yeah,
but the nutritional weight loss and watching diet is
yes.
important.
And they say the health, it's 80% what goes into the mouth. The exercise is after, it's important, but what you consume is really the key. And I want to raise up another point as we talk about that. And Jennifer, you would really identify with this, because when we talk about a wellness mindset, so often we say sacrifice and balance, and people tend to, all right, I'll offset this with this. And I think for many of us, we confuse how money is spent, and you tend to believe that annual medical checkup, that annual test, which you probably leave for the end of the year, when it is fighting with Christmas and ham and turkey and curtains and paint and gifts, it becomes something you could put aside, and we don't see a medical check as something that is critical. And more importantly, I think, because a lot of us would have done that medical check as a result of being employed, and either the company paid for it or subsidized it or required it as a part of your employment contract. So when you have finished it and you are on your own, that annual check suddenly becomes a every 2-year check, and then 3 years, and then 4 years. And then when you get a pain, you go and check it.
Even if you do it every 2 years, at least you're still doing it. You could find, what you don't want to have happen is to be surprised by a health event.
Yeah.
And these checks, especially with things like cholesterol and blood pressure.
But for many people, they focus, I think, yes, you have a focus on your children, you have a focus on what you have to do. But for many people in their 40s and 50s, and the children are going to drive your behavior in a way. But for many people, they for themselves cannot anticipate the change that is going to come into their lives, that is going to require them to change habits. And when they get to that stage, whether it is retirement at 60, or you get into 65 and you feel the pain in your lower back, and you go check your PSA, or for women, you bump somewhere and you get the osteoporosis, you do all those things.
Yeah.
The wellness mindset to really make a difference has to start in
it's cognitive.
Or
I mean, I had colleagues at the university up there, and I would see them you know, you go to eat and so on, and they would be so particular about what they ate and so on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I've seen that. There's a dean in particular. I had breakfast with the dean there, and you know, he had, you know, one slice of bread and just a little egg there, and I was having bacon and that, and you know, a glass of orange juice, coffee, and this man, and this man is making 3 times more money than me on the campus, and he sits there and he's lean.
Mm-hmm.
He's lean, you know, and that was just a habit of mind that it was smart to not eat so much.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of the campus people and so on were like that.
Yeah.
You know, that there are things they're not eating.
Mm-hmm.
Or amounts of food they're not going beyond and so on.
Yeah.
Those sometimes you don't think about those things when you're in your 30s and 40s and
50s.
And 50s.
You know,
and so on. Yeah.
what I'm hearing, and that's very true, because Terri-Ann at late 40s up to 60, you are thinking, you're caught up with family and planning and putting a lot of things in place to ensure, okay, Trina are well educated, if you know, you're well placed for promotion in your job, etc.
Or
And
even
you
just
focus,
surviving, Jennifer.
or to survive, yeah.
Those, even if it's not
So-
children or promotion, just surviving.
Just surviving, I agree. So at that time, somehow the focus is not on health, because remember, your body, you're still active and you're not feeling,
You're good.
Yeah.
you're going good. It's only when you're not recognizing that from the time you move further into your 60s, then listen, sometimes you may feel and I could use my experience, you could feel your body slowing down, but you're still going until something happens and you really have to check yourselves. Because many times the decisions we make, even in your case, Dr. Lewis, at that time, the decision you made to migrate because of your daughter, I am sure in your mind you're not thinking whether your body can take the cold, whether you have to work, in some cases, 3 jobs to maintain. You know, they have different scenarios that people, you know, when they get into or they plan that, they're not taking into consideration their health. They just made the decision and you go for it. And only at that time you may realize, but my body can't take that. I can't work the long hours that I thought I could have worked. You know, a lot of things crop up.
Some of it is economic too, you know.
Yes, it is.
And I had a job that had health plans and so on. So, and those things are useful.
And that's what we talk about, that wellness mindset. People
Mindset.
need to be aware, and in many cases too, and
So, yes.
I know this coming from insurance, that in some companies, when you retire, that ends your health plan and those benefits. Not everybody allowed to carry the benefits into their retirement. And persons have to be aware. So from the time you know, that is part of your planning. That's part of your transition planning, to ensure that you have the health plan in place. Look at how you know, what you're going to be doing to remain healthy as you go along. Understand too that your family history, because things like diabetes. So being aware of that, you know, now, yes, I cannot continue eating all that sweet ice cream, cake, or whatever. I have to start looking at those things. So when we speak about that wellness mindset, and Terri-Ann mentioned that 50 to 60. 50 to 60 is a time that you're in denial, you know.
What?
Swear you're in good health, everything going all right, everything in place, and nothing going to happen to you until that time you visit the doctor.
I think for a lot of 50 to 60s, it is not that you necessarily think in good health, you know. You start the first stage of grief for
You don't want to believe you're there. You don't want to
believe that's right.
No. and you keep it in the back, and you're not going, you're not doing, and that is
things happen fast. Things happen.
Yes.
Things happening fast after.
And the good thing that I would say is now that many of the insurance companies, and I know it, you have companies making individual health plans more accessible. You can get them through unions. You can go to the insurance company.
You can do things, yes.
Individual access a public group health plan. You can access individual health insurance to keep you going.
Well, you have to have health plans that could.
But the thing is, Dr. Lewis, as you said, the points that I believe we want to make, that connection wants to make, is that if people are conscious that, as you say, it's a cognitive thing. You have to start from your 50s to 60s, 60 to 70, 70 to 80. You have to put a plan in place that looks at your wellness. You have to
do that.
Well,
you have to make behavior change.
Yeah, and I want to raise one more point before we run out of time and we close. The aspect of wellness that is mental health, because we physically we say fine, yes. And I think a lot of us physically, no diabetes, no hypertension, no anything, but stress, depression. And Jennifer, I want to propose that there's another area of life that is very overweight, and it is the financial confusion, and a lot of our mental unwellness is probably linked to stresses related to not managing our finances well. And it comes right in a physical way through stress.
Well, that I would think that is very hard for people now, because it is so hard in this country. Things are so expensive.
If you don't get yourself organized, or even if you don't face reality and understand, look, this is where I am. This is what I could access.
You spoke about the behavioral change, and especially at this time. I would go a bit extreme, and I'm normally, Terri-Ann is the one who goes to the extreme. But my thing is looking at the reality, and to help with your mental health, remove ownership of a house as a goal at this stage.
Yeah.
You understand? You set your goals because we are used to, yes, you're educated, you reach a certain age, you need to, we put it in this nice box. You finish university, or even if you haven't finished university, you reach a certain age, right? The next step, the nice little thing, you get married, you start a family, and you buy a home. Whether you're working, whatever you're working for, you just look at a piece of land or something with it. So you save towards that. And there's a lot of frustration during that time, because it's either that goal getting further away from you, and then you're getting frustrated, and the stress starts, etc., etc. At this stage, the reality is this. You look at your situation, and there is no hope of you getting a home within the next 5 years when you reach 40. They put an age limit. Remove that age limit. Remove that age limit. And that will help with your mental capacity. So when someone says, oh, you are 50 and you don't own a home yet, okay, this is the reality. And you speak about persons who's single, okay, so I'm single. So that's okay, even better yet.
Yeah.
I am single, so that's not my priority list. My priority is to remain healthy, still live a quality life because I don't have to pay a mortgage. And maybe then later on, if your situation change, then look at it. And I know that because I always recall when my father got his home, he was 50 plus. And since we were young, he was dreaming of buying a home for us. But he could not until that stage. And the only reason he did it then, because he had plenty children to help support him. So my thing is, shift that goalpost.
Yeah.
Move it further down. So allow yourself, I understand because that's how we have been brought up.
Mhm.
Save mortgage, buy car, all it is.
Markers of success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in saying that, at our age also, many people out there, you have plans, your ambition to send your children maybe away to university to study and all these great plans. The time has changed now. It is more difficult. You still want them to have the best education, but we may have to look at how we're doing things to maintain, and we still on health here, to maintain that mental health.
Yeah.
Because we have, and they have set statistics now, that has been increased. We have so many people out there now, the nervous breakdown, depression, etc. While I totally agree and understand that situation which the government has to step in, and I think they have different, it may not be working ideal and the way we would want it to work. But our thing here is looking at, and I'm just switching back to the wellness mindset here, all right? Understanding that, and we are saying that the impact that situations like that have, the disappointment people feel. You mentioned and you used there as a teacher, and there are many others in that situation.
Yeah.
I have my own daughters who you brought up, okay, you educate, you did all the things, and your next step, as I said, we have it down like, okay, you go to university, you study, you get married, you have a child in my house. You know, that sort of thinking, because you're looking at legacy planning and you're looking at they have to build their estate. The thing about it is, that is what might have happened then. Now, situation has changed, and we're just dealing with
That's global. That is a global problem.
We are dealing with situation now. We are looking at the 50 plus, and someone 50 at this stage who don't own their own home. Yes, very frustrated, and it's really affecting their mental health.
Wow.
So I'm just saying that the reality is, yes, they did everything, and I'm agreeing with you. They did everything that they thought possible to bring them to that stage of home ownership. But this is the reality. We are going through a pandemic never before. The fallout right wrong is big. Some people losing their homes that they work hard to get, which I don't know which one is. I think that is even worse than not having it at all, because they have spent all their monies and can't afford to maintain mortgage, and the finance companies taking them back. My thing now for the mental health is we have to review our goals. You mentioned behavioral change. We really need to look at that and say, listen, if we're being so affected that you're getting depressed, your pressure going up, etc., let's look at why. And if why is because you see these great goals you had for yourself or your family, that is creating it. Hey, let's relook. For now, we don't know what's happening down the road. I am not saying take it off your list. I'm saying for now, put it on hold. Yeah. And let's try to enjoy the best life we can at this stage.
I think, Dr. Lewis, that issue of all the factors that are inside or outside your control, it really send you into a tailspin. And you know, we often think of when we deal with the 50 plus, that 5.8G, the continuum, we sometimes, you know, we start looking at 50. But to arrive at 50, you would have come from 40 and 30 and 20 when those pressures of what can my career give me and so on. So when you arrive at the doorstep of 50 or 60, you have plenty baggage and you're going into a completely different realm. And one of the things that, as you've said so often in this chat, your cognitive, your mindset. Yeah. And it is so important to make that decision. Look, I am me. The context, macro context might be negative. We are an energy dependent. The price of oil dropped. Policies may be wrong. But in spite of all of that, I might have COVID, I can't migrate, I can't do this. But you do have control over yourself and your choices. And if the choice is, as Jennifer is saying, all right, home ownership is not going to be for me, it is probably time for me to look at somebody and share a home. Or
Well, you have to.
You have to change your mindset.
I agree with that you'll have to. I mean, if it's impossible.
Yeah, you have to change.
But at least you have to be able to reason out where you are, so you don't put all the burden on yourself. It's just that in the society, where the pressures lie in the society, there are pressures in the society. And one of the primary pressures is where it counts most, like in shelter. People are shut out.
Yes, but then if they are shut out, what we have to understand is you are shut out from the notion of I must own my own home and I must have a home that looks like this on so much land. The issue of at 50 plus in 2020 going forward, after a pandemic, and let's leave the pandemic out of it. Let's go back to January 2020. Most countries of the world were in recession. And that recession was coming forward from 2015, 2016, 17. So at the end of the day, when we face December 31st, 2020, the famous 2020 year, and we're looking forward to 2021, we have to do like many, everyone says, assess where you are and reorganize those priorities, reorganize them. And we can't, if we carry those expectations forward with us, we will be doing what we at Connection say you should not do. That's a second act, a previous context. We've got to change it. And that fixing of the mindset, that speaks to what are the fundamentals that will really make me happy? What will keep me well physically, well mentally, well emotionally, well balanced with friends and community? You have to drop a lot of those expectations.
Yeah, well, I think what I'm hearing you saying there, and I'm agreeing that there are some hard spots in the society.
Yes.
Where you have you come up against frustration, and that is one of the downsides of our country. And I don't know if it's a generalization we can make about third world and so on. What
I like to say here, Dr. Lewis, because I know time, we come into the end. I hear you. I'm agreeing in terms of someone, by the time they reach age 50, expect to have certain necessities, and a house is one, especially if they work hard. What we have done, and when I mention you have to look at your goals, change your mindset, etc., is that we look, and Terri-Ann touched on it earlier, but within our, what we are offering right now to people out there, the 50 plus cohort, is that let's look, this is the situation you're in. Let's review where you're in, what you're doing right now. Let's look at where you are. Let's see where you want to go, because remember, you are looking at a completely different stage in life. So even someone at 50 looking at a mortgage, they're still looking at 20 years, they're looking at not until 70 they might finish pay. So you ask yourself, let's look at it. Can we really do this in 10 years? Do you have the money for us to do a short-term mortgage, etc.? So we look at these situations with them, all right? And then guide them. So Terri-Ann mentioned it. It may be that they may not be the sole owner in that house. They may have to look for a partner, whether it's your children, whether it's whoever, to partner with them. Somebody may be younger, that they can do it. So they have options. The thing about it is,
leave and pass on ownership.
The thing about it is, and you said it, they have to get that knowledge, that information now. What can we do in this scenario? And we add on to that. So that is their mindset. We look at the psychological aspect of it. And then you look at, which is very, very important, the mental health, the health aspect of it. Because with all this great planning, you have to be fit. You have to know that your mindset, you can deal with whatever it is that you have to you have the part that we set out for you. that you are able to do that.
Jennifer,
So, I mean,
that was a very critical point. But here we are. Time is on against us.
yes.
So
Okay.
we have really, this mindset story, Dr. Lewis, you have represented it so well. It's so, as you said, the cognitive, and notwithstanding the context you're in, whether it's your physical health, we talk about financial position, we talked about your approach to generating income, your approach to family. It's so important that we understand as we get into 50 plus, 60 plus, life is different.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, also, listen, these things are generational. Eh? When you're 50 plus, 60, 70, my daughter is about 50. So she's going to be where I used to be there and so on.
Right.
Yeah.
Then you have grandchild.
Yes.
Child is 7. Now, depending on what kind of life I had and so on, that would put more pressure on the options my grand will have,
Yep.
Because and so on. So all of these things have to be intergenerational. Like grandparents.
Oh yes.
Have to pass things down.
Definitely.
But we can be proactive, and one of the things that we keep promoting here at Connections 50 Plus is notwithstanding, and we're saying that with so much, notwithstanding, we have the opportunity, whether it is technology, whether it is networks, we have an opportunity to get onto a third act stage, and with whatever baggage we arrive at 50 with, whatever baggage it is, in today's world, in this era that we live in, this 21st century, we have the opportunity with managing our mindset to have a great time, a better time on the third act stage. I think this has been
they're good years. They're good years.
Absolutely. So I really do want to thank you, Dr. Lewis.
But thank you so much for being our guest. Really, we know our listeners have learned a lot. Listening to you, having you share your story, and it's all about really the wellness mindset. And we definitely have to look at behavioral change.
Definitely.
Yeah, okay.
So you have a great
thank you for inviting me.
Yes.
So for all our friends across the Caribbean, our most easterly island, Barbados, easterly island, to the most northerly, the Bahamas, whichever of the islands, to the most southerly, Guyana, and in the west, Belize.
Okay.
I've got my direction straight.
I'm now about to say it's her fault if she miss her,
I have to get the name of the most northerly Bahama island. I'll get the name, so next week I will identify it by name.
Yes. So we're just saying to you all, bye for now. Right?
Bye.
See you.
50 Plus Tribe and followers from TNT and the Caribbean.
Thank you for joining us on this Connections 50 Plus Wednesday Alive show.
We hope you enjoyed the lively conversation and look forward to seeing you next week.
Don't forget to like and share our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
We really love getting your feedback.
Bye for now.